Welcome everyone, and great job so far. So today we'll be continuing our intermediate model using our model. And my expectation is that once you understand this model, you can replicate it in your own work or project or a portfolio. All right. And so today we'll be focusing on time series functions, okay, within SQL. And we're using PostgreSQL. You can usually, adapt it to any other type of SQL variations like T-SQL, Spark SQL, and the rest. Okay. So let's quickly go to our use case for today. So the analytics teams need a multi-year day of week revenue trend aggregated by year, quarter, weekday number, and weekday name to uncover sales patterns, weekly seasonality, and performance shift over the past 24 months. Okay. Now, your actions here, feel free to go through the business impact, but your action here is to deliver a year, quarter, weekday revenue summary using SQL date functions like extract, tocha, to present clean, interpretable trend, share the resulting weekday-based sales pattern with insight and recommended follow-up actions. Now, as you know, as we like to do on this channel, we just focus on the data. That's the key of what we're really trying to explain to you. All right, so now this is a sample data. Now, we always go back to our template. What table are we looking at here? We're basically looking at total revenue. So we can use our order table using a total due attribute. And also, what are the filters we should keep in mind? The past 24 months. So this should be more or less dynamic in nature. And what are the times dimension we should think of? We should think of year, quarter, weekday. You can see it here, and also it's explained right here in the expected output. But if you don't have the expected output, you can also quickly deduce that from the use case. Okay. Now with that, let's go back to our lab and then try to solution this. Okay. So now we're gonna still use our order table. So basically this is what we're talking about here. Just give me 1 second. And so this is what we are talking about here. All right. And then let's quickly look at what that looks like. And then we know this already, but I always like to do that just in case somebody is watching this particular session for the first time. All right. Okay, so now there are a couple of things we need to do. How do we extract here from the order date? So we need the order date as well as the total due. Okay, so let's quickly do that. So let's pull in the order date. So from here we can see our order date, and then we can also see our total due somewhere here. Okay, there we go. Okay, we need to pull that over. Okay, so we have this, we run that. Now the first filter we need to focus on, let's start with the filter and then we go back to the actual time dimension. Okay, so now we need to get the last 24 months. How do we do that? There are a couple of ways we can do that, but we want to use a function called interval. So let's say our order date, okay, date is greater than or equals to, and then we reference our current date, okay, and then we'll say minus interval, okay, and we can say 24 months. Okay, and I'm going to show you the different variations of this. Okay, so basically what we are saying is that take this current date, subtract 24 months out of it, and then make sure that the other date is greater than or equals to that date. Okay, so let's run this and then we should get some value. All right, now let's quickly try to understand what this is actually doing before we move on. All right, so let's comment what we have done so far. So let's say um, so basically we're just going to have current date, okay, and then we would let's alias this as um, last, let's just call it previous date. Okay, so now let's run this. Now you can see basically the current day as at the time we are preparing this video is really 26th of January 2026, and then you can see the previous day 24 months ago to be 22 January 2024. Now, what are the various functionality you need to be concerned with here? Because there are so many, there are a couple of variations here. Oh, my mouse is okay. Okay, I think the mouse is good back. Okay, now there's a couple of things you need to keep in mind here. So let me just quickly share that documentation with you. So if you look at interval here, now there are various, you can see it says interval input. I'm not going to focus more on that, but you can also say interval output. Now just focus here for a second. Now you can do something like 1 to 2. This will mean 1 year and 2 months. Okay, you can do date time interval as well. You can do missed interval, and you can see also say 1 year and 2 months, and then you can do this as well. But these are peculiar to Postgres. These two are peculiar to Postgres, but this is SQL standard, and this is ISO 8601, and we're going to use this as well. So we're going to use these, and also we're going to use SQL standard, and you can see the variation. I just want you to have many options so that when you're working on yours as well, you can be able to use that. So let's say 1 to 2, and then you run that. So what is going to happen is going to go back 1 year and then minus 2 months, and then it lands us to November. Okay, this is how basically this works. So let's try one more, and feel free to keep on testing on your side as well. So we can do P 1 year and 2 months, and then I think it should work. You can see it work as well, and that is ISO standard. So basically we can also switch these over and say 24 months. All right, so there are various variation here. Yeah, something is going on with my mouse here. Okay, now it's working well. Okay, beautiful. So now one more variation before we move further. You can also have 24 months as well, and that should work as well. And so you can see there are various variation, so just keep that in mind and feel free to use the documentation and to be able to guide you. Okay, now that we understand that, so let's go back to our solution here. All right, and here we can see 24 months is good, and we can usually play around with this one. All right, now let's go back and begin to also extract our year. So we need the year for sure, so we're going to use extract function, and I'm going to show you the different variation of this extract as well. I always like to use the documentation because then you can see whatever Postgres already put together as variation. Okay, so let's do extract year, okay, from order date. Okay, and one thing we can always specify here, we can use cast as well, but the shortcut here is to say make sure if you want it to be integer, just put this double column. Is basically casting this as integer. Okay, I know we've not gone through cast, but it's just basically to make sure that the data type is number essentially. Yeah, but we might go to in some of our other session, but let's leave that for now. So now we extract here, and then we're going to extract, actually we'll see if we can copy. We extract the quarter as well, and then okay, let's do that. We extract the quarter. Okay, and I believe that should work, and we call this Okay, we call this quarter. Okay, let's see if that works. Oh, okay. So this is okay. So let's do this. Okay, beautiful. You can see the quarter is working now. One more thing that we need to add now before we go further, right? So let's first of all go back to the functions, and then we can quickly see the various variations that we have, and then we come back here. So for extract, I believe this is extract. Okay, you can see for extract, this extract function is basically extract field from source. That's how the syntax. So you can do century, you can do day, you can do decade, you can do day of week. Now one thing I want you, we're gonna do day of week, but one thing I want you to take note here is Sunday to Saturday. You can see it's 0 to 6. Okay, there is another one, and you can do day of year, but we're not going to focus on that. There's another one called ISO day of week, and this is from Monday to Sunday. So it's just different coding, but it's good to know when you begin to work with different time functions. Okay, and then before we leave this documentation, I have another documentation for you here for Tucha. Now, Tuchel have various functionality, but for what we want to use it for in this particular session is for the time purpose. And I want you to focus here. You can see it has various variation as well. See, this is year, meaning 4 or more digits, and you can see year just 4 digits. And the one we're going to be using today is day, and you can see it's basically say the lowercase, and then if we have this as you can see D is capitalized, then you have it in capitalized day, which is what we're gonna use. So take note of this to extract the day of the week. Okay, all right, now enough of that. Let's go back to what we are doing currently. And so now that we understand that, then we can then extract the day of week. Okay, and then we can say, for example, we can say day of week, and then we call this day of week 0 to 6. I just want you to take note of that. Okay, so when you run that, okay, we need to put a comma here, and when you run that, you see that it might not be obvious here, but just hold on. We're gonna let's just order by for now. Order by, and we'll say 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and then we run that. Maybe that should be able. Okay, you still because we've not. Okay, we'll leave it at that. But just know it's 0 to 6. I'm gonna do another one, and then we're just gonna do 1 to 7. I just wanted to see the various variation. Okay, so then we have the ISO day of week, and then we'll see 1 to 7. All right, and then we'll then do the total. I already explained what that does. So total basically you will specify the order date, and that's the way this works. You specify the order date or the date you're interested in, and then you will specify in bracket, you put, in this case we want to use days. Basically it's going to extract, go back in time and look at the day of week and extract it for us. Okay, and I'm going to call this weekday name. Okay, and then what we're gonna do now is that we're just gonna aggregate at this point. So we're gonna do a sum. Okay, and we're just gonna do a sum, as we call this as total sales, and then we're just gonna group by. We're going to go by all the dimensions. So basically we have 1, 2, 3, 4 at this point, and 5, and then so we're just going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then let's run this. And then now you should be able to see, you can see what I'm talking about. See, For day 0 to 6, day of week, you can see 0 to 6, right? Sunday to Saturday. And then from 1 to 7, you can see Monday to Sunday. So you can see the variation, right? It will help you when you need to be very specific in your coding, okay? And then one more thing you can do here is that, let's say for example, you really want this to be explicit, you want to add q, just to make sure it's corner. So you can just add like I think we've done this before in some of our previous episodes, but this is a pro tip. And so just take note of that so you can see then it becomes Q1. Beautiful, guys. One more thing though is that, let's say for example you wanted to have commas, like for example here you can see it doesn't have a comma, it's not two decimal. How do you do that? If you go to the TOCHART documentation, you'll be able to see this, but I'm just going to write exactly what you should do here, and then feel free to go back to that documentation, okay? And then here you just specify, and that's also the beauty of Stocha. It allows you to do multiple things. You can also use it for other functionality as well, but in this case we're just going to do 99 comma 99 comma 99 and then we have dot 99. So basically we are saying that it should be two decimal, and then we'll say from 1 million, make sure it's comma, 1,000 comma, and then the 100. Okay, let's run that, and then we'll still call it total sales. And now you can see, beautiful guys, you can see we have commas here, and then we have two decimal. This is awesome, guys. And then if you just want to double check your answer, let's just remove this guy for now so that we can confirm it with our answer, and then this turn to 4, and then we should be fine, I believe. Now if you look at this answer, and then you should be able to compare, you can see 167, and then the last one 1921. If you go back here, you should be able to see, oh okay, we may need to reorder it, but you can see 167. Okay, we'd stop at 5. Okay, so 3427. So if you go back here, you can see 3407, 978. And I know the reason for that, so it's just some variations from how we coded this. So but this is great, guys. This is exactly what we're trying to demonstrate here, just to make sure you understand the concept, okay? And in terms of the value, we can always double check that. Maybe there are some changes in our data, data could change daily, so we're just going to leave that, won't bother with the accuracy. But the key here is to understand this concept. I hope you've really learned a lot here, and now you understand how some of these time functions work. And then we still have another session where we'll be able to go into the time function a little bit in a very different component, and it's an intermediate model, so you should expect some little tricks here and there, and just to make sure we empower you to be able to do all that you need to do for your work, and you can keep on excelling at what you do. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next session.